Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast, brought to you by Price Picks. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me this evening for a live show. We have a live show. What's going on here?
We
have Box 40s. Uh-oh. Look at that.
Proof of the live show.
There it
See?
is.
That's why you don't have the live show open on a different tab. Sean Cunningham, what's going on?
Hi, James Ham. Hi, Brenden Nunes. I'm doing fine. How are we?
We're good. Okay. We also have Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
I'm doing well. I was worried about, that was loud. That was the cover of my candle. I'm getting ready to light it here. I figured I'd light it live on the show. Lavender and cedarwood.
Oh.
Same as last time. Haven't started it yet.
Same one. I have a new one.
Oh.
I have a
What
new
do we
one.
got?
I'll preface it by saying I am not a pumpkin guy because I think everything about pumpkin is pretty gross. But I found one that is a pumpkin apple candle that actually smells amazing.
Oh,
so check
pumpkin
that out.
apple.
And it's fucking hot. Jesus Christ, it's hot. Sorry, I just burned the shit out of myself.
Children.
Oh,
the Wilcox children, Sean, come on.
They're in bed.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
They've heard
what's going on, everybody? While we get the candles started, which is always the weirdest part of the podcast, at least I think.
Weird.
Oh, no, there's weirder parts.
There are stranger parts, yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Kings Beat podcast. We're again doing a live show. So if you're here on the YouTube, give us a thumbs up if you don't mind. Subscribe to the channel. I didn't turn on that little feature that makes you subscribe to the channel in order to make a comment. That's my bad. I probably would have if I was not exhausted and wondering if we we're actually going to get this podcast off the ground tonight. Luckily, we are. Here we are. Of course, we are brought to you by Prize Picks. We are a Blue Wire podcast. And I don't know. Outside of that, go to the Kings Beat, become a premium subscriber, and let's get ready to go. Let's do this thing. The chat is open, so we'll sit here and answer questions throughout the show. But yeah, what's going on, guys? First up, we had a really bad basketball game this week to cover. Well, it wasn't a great game. The Kings fell to the Pelicans. Then the Pelicans just got whacked. I mean, that was like filthy what just happened to the Pelicans tonight. They were bounced from the in-season tournament by LeBron James, and who has made it very clear he plans on just opening up a new franchise in Las Vegas and starting his own team eventually. But I don't know. What were your guys' takeaways from the game earlier this week where the Kings laid another egg against the Pelicans?
I didn't think it was that bad of a game. It was, the Kings got tested. I thought the game was actually pretty entertaining for the most part, but I think down the stretch of things, it unraveled a bit. But I actually, it's another game where they really kind of run into that buzzsaw of length and physicality. Kind of sound like a broken record when it comes to that, but the Pelicans are really one of the teams that kind of have a lot of that. And while typically it's been Zion Williamson in those first two meetings, the third one he wasn't really much of a factor. Harrison Barnes kind of got the defensive assignment a little bit, and it was a different look for Zion, but everybody else stepped up, and you could see Trey Lyles be the enforcer in a little bit of a moment there that I was a little surprised that the NBA didn't overreact and call that a punch. So good thing he didn't get suspended or worse. And I don't know what would be worse, but it was just it was like one of those games. Yeah, or more. But yeah, it was just one of those games. I mean, Fox was terrible until he wasn't really. I mean, it's one of those games where it was like you saw how bad it was when he's bad, and he still ended up scoring like 30 points. One of those, but those are those telltale games where some people might look at that and go, "Oh, he was great," and he really wasn't. So, but a lot of mistakes in that, a lot of trouble with the length and physicality, and Herb Jones, man, just continues to impress. And when he's hitting threes, watch out. So yeah, it was a little bit of a clunker as they've now lost 2 of their last 3 and a whole week off in a way. I mean, I know Mike Brown kind of bristled at that notion today that it was a week off, but several days of consecutive days of practice before you go into Phoenix.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brenden, go for it. Yeah,
I thought getting Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum back for the Pelicans almost made them feel like, obviously they have still Zion and Ingram that are their 2 ahead of the Snakes, but like I thought that getting those guys back made them look fairly different. CJ gives them a lot of spacing, and Trey Murphy does the same. And Trey Murphy also gives them some pretty good length that I think the Kings tend to struggle with. But I really agree with Sean's point of like, it's funny to look at the end of the night and De'Aaron still had 35 and 4. But it's those 6 turnovers really to me. Like that first quarter, the Kings 4:27 mark, the Kings are up 32-17. New Orleans ends on an 18-4 run. And during that time, Fox had 4 turnovers. And
how many
all
missed?
live ball turnovers. Yeah, he also went 1 of 4 from the field during that time. And New Orleans is 8 of 11 as a team. But 4 of those steals lead to 6 points on the other end. And coming into the game, De'Aaron was averaging, I believe, a career low 2 turnovers per night. And a previous season high of 4. He had him in those 4.5 minutes to close the first. And then the Pelicans had a great second quarter, and the Kings couldn't really get back within reach. I thought Ingram and CJ were hitting really timely shots as the Kings were starting to make their runs.
Yeah, I think CJ McCollum, he was kind of the backbreaker. Like every time you thought you had a good defensive sequence, he hit some crazy shot, and it just kept building. Yeah, the first quarter meltdown, like we haven't seen De'Aaron Fox have one of those in a couple of years, and it was kind of jarring to watch. I mean, like not even paying attention and getting his pocket picked by Alvarado, where the entire fan base is yelling that he's coming after you. I thought that was strange. I thought the forced shots, not great. But every once in a while, you're going to have one of those games. You just hope that it's not in a huge contest like trying to advance to the in-season tournament, like semifinals or whatever it was. So yeah, definitely a disappointing game. And we'll start there with kind of we'll launch off. Keegan Murray played. I thought he played all right in the first half. Then he went to the locker room, and then he came back. But now we're learning that his back issues are back. It's sort of the same thing it was before practice. What has it been like over the last couple of days with Keegan? I know he did not practice on Wednesday. Was he practicing today, or was he at practice?
Yeah, he practiced in full today, and he's not on the injury report for tomorrow in Phoenix. So that's certainly an encouraging sign. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the way he started that game, you would have thought that he was destined to have a great big night as they built that 15-point lead, and he had some early buckets, slash into the basket, hit a couple threes. I mean, things were starting the right way, and then all of a sudden he kind of starts to feel that soreness again. Goes to the locker room, comes back fortunately after halftime, able to give it a go, and he tried to brush it off as if it's not a big deal. But I think it was more of a precaution for him to maybe get the treatment on the off day, miss a day of practice. You've got kind of a couple days here to kind of play with before Friday. And it sounds as if everything kind of responded pretty well today, and then boding well for it to go into Friday and have him available. But something that we're keeping our eye on. And it seems like it's maybe a little bit different than the back flare up that he dealt with that only cost him a game last season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to Keegan in general, like obviously the back, I'm sure is playing a part here, and that affects your mobility in a whole lot of ways. And he's getting asked to guard smaller guys, do more on the offensive end. But in general, like it's been a tough start to the year. I think that there's been growth when it comes to rebounding, defense, a little bit more connective passing, like all these small things. But I feel like it was so hyped up. And I specifically remember Sean doing a lot of tempering expectations going into year 2 of Keegan. But, to an extent, this is part of the growing process of a guy that's going into year 2, but his numbers are struggling a lot right now. And HB is getting a lot of flack, but I think you could just point at the forwards in general.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think we're hearing, like the fan revolt on Harrison Barnes after the loss to the Pelicans. I thought was interesting, especially since the first thing Sean brings up is that he's the one that was defending Zion, who did nothing. He wasn't nearly the factor he was in other games. So, we're going to get to the Harrison Barnes situation in a little while, and there's a couple of questions I'm gonna hit on really quick. We have a question from Man. How much money is a first round pick worth in a trade, money wise, before it actually has a number on it, like a 2030 first round pick? Or is it just like, so first of all, picks don't have money, they don't have a value that's put on them. So whether it has like value as a first round pick, you have no idea. It certainly it would. Like teams collect first round picks around the league, but there is no monetary value put on a first round pick. Um, and if you're a team who's looking at, say, the fact that De'Aaron Fox is 26 years old, right? Or he's going to be 26, right? Is he going to be 26 or is he going to be 27? Sean, you know,
26. We're on this. We have the same birthday, right? So
Yeah.
I should
Yeah.
know this, but yeah, I think it's 26.
So
he's 25 right now.
Yeah, so if you're looking at trading a first round pick, a 2030 first round pick, first of all, that's a long ways from now. That's like, excuse me, 7 years.
Mhm.
So at that point, Fox is going to be 32, 33. Sabonis is, I think, 2 years older. So that's not a pick that if you're the Kings, you really want to trade right now because you have no idea what your team is going to look like then. Maybe you're great, maybe you're not. But either way, it doesn't have a real like value to it as far as like a dollar that you can put on it. That's just not the way it goes. Let's see. We also have another question by Thomas Lancaster. Sorry, every time I pull these up, Brennan, you get like crushed by the box.
It's fine.
So Jake Gayden said he heard OG has no interest in being traded to Sacramento. We're squishing Brendan. Sorry,
Brayden.
Squishing Brendan. My son's name is Braden. He has no interest in being traded to Sacramento through league sources, confirmed via Twitter. I don't know. Like, have you guys heard anything on OG?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
now it is worth pointing out, like if you're trading for OG Anunoby, you need a guarantee that you're going to be able to sign him. So I think that certainly plays a factor, but yeah, I mean, if someone's willing to pay OG Anunoby as much as he can possibly make, then I don't feel like he's going to have any problem going wherever.
I mean,
he sees fit.
I think if anything, the signs have kind of pointed more towards a potential interest. Like he's also a clutch agent. De'Aaron obviously just joined that. I think that a lot of the talk around OG has been wanting a bigger role than what he's maybe been given in Toronto, and I think that he could get that in Sacramento. So I didn't see the reporting, but that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. And like, look, I don't know where Jake got that. And it would take a little time to chase it down. Look, I think over the course of time, we've seen plenty of players get traded to Sacramento and then fall in love with the city once they get there. They fall in love with the fan base. They fall in love with being like in a sort of a quiet town, but you're beloved. And it's actually like not very often that a player comes to Sacramento and then leaves right away. Like again, the Dante DiVincenzo situation is something that I would point to as one of those situations. But even that was more on the Kings than it was on Dante DiVincenzo, where they waived his bird rights and walked away from him. So yeah, I don't know, like whether you can even get a deal done with Toronto. I don't know, because it sure does feel like they don't make trades and then they just lose players. So that's going to be a tough trade, a tough team to deal with either way, because I don't think they're ready to just be bad for a long time. And so you got to figure out how do you come to deal with a team that, number one, doesn't want to trade a player who has passed on trading him multiple times over the last couple of years. But on top of that, like they're not in the market of being horrible. That's just not what the Raptors are doing. Does that make sense? Yes.
Absolutely, especially considering that. I mean, it's not necessarily a lock that he leaves. I mean, this is Toronto wants to remain competitive. It's not like they're trying to blow things up. So, if he thinks that the best deal and the best future remains for him in Toronto, he's going to try and see that through. I mean, he's going to go wherever like you said, you outlined the things that any player would want, and he should have complete control over that. And no team is going to trade for him to just watch him walk. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And like, to be honest, like Sean has been much higher on Siakam the last couple of years than I have. If you're going to trade with Toronto, I've been more in the OG camp, and Sean's more in the Siakam camp. I would actually lean at this point more towards the Siakam camp as well, because I think he's more obtainable.
That's what it is.
Yeah, Toronto very clearly, like, they had an opportunity to, from what I've heard, to sign him to a massive extension this summer, and he was willing to stick around, and they passed on giving him an extension, from what I've heard. Whether
So
that's
more
100% accurate
sorry.
or not, I don't know. Go ahead, Brenden.
So more obtainable, is that he would cost more though, right?
Well, he would cost more, but again, he's going to cost more, but we're looking at a 29-year-old guy going on 30, and a player who he turns 30 right at the end of the season, I think. But a player who makes more money, so it's going to be a more difficult transaction. I think he makes $38 million versus OG, who makes like 18.8 or some, or 19.2. Whatever. OG is an easier player to swap pieces for, where I think Siakam is going to cost a little more, but again, he's a free agent. And if they've already made their bed with him about not bringing him back, or potentially not bringing him back, then, how much can he cost? Because he's an expiring contract. And sure, they have bird rights to him, but the bird rights mean as much in this situation. They'd mean a lot to the Kings, but because the Kings are not going to have salary cap space for a couple of years, and they can't go out and sign a player like OG or Pascal Siakam, and that's why they have to go through the pathway that is a trade. If they're
Although sign is very much a possibility, especially now that you're beyond the collective bargaining agreement and everything, because a lot of sign and trades disappeared as a result of the CBA not being finalized last year. That is expected to be more in play for a lot of teams in the coming years.
Yeah, but sign and trades are really complicated, number one. And number two, if you go above like a certain ceiling, it hard caps you. And the Kings aren't going to get hard capped.
No, they don't want to be hard capped. No.
Yeah, so it's going to be, it would be very difficult to pull off a sign and trade after the season for a guy like Siakam. And like, again, the reason I like Siakam is because he's proven to be a really good passer, and he's not a great rebounder, but he's a good scorer. He's a good passer. He's a good 3-point shooter, except for this year where he's not a good 3-point shooter. But I think he would fit really well alongside Sabonis, and he would change the dynamic of like your window a little bit. But I also think it would maybe not the total equivalent of adding another Sabonis, but close to it. You're looking at like an all-star level player who would come in and really, like, he would be your third best player, your second best player on like day one. And that would be pretty substantial for the Kings. Yeah. So not to get fully sidetracked. I think the reason why we are getting sidetracked by this, we'll just take on the situation that is Harrison Barnes at this point. And maybe not so much Harrison Barnes as it is, I think the Pelicans exposed like the Achilles heel of the Kings. And we all knew that this was like an issue, that like length and athleticism at the 3 and the 4 has been a problem. But I also think that like when you watch a game like this, you're just reminded of it, that, they have like 5 guys that would make sense for the Kings, whether it's Brandon Ingram or, again, like Zion, you can't stop, but also like the Herb Jones guys of the world, or who's the other guy that lit
Trey
them up?
Murphy,
Trey Murphy.
Marshall.
Yeah, like all of these players that they have that the Kings don't have. And I'd say not only are they long and athletic, but they're physical and they play the game really, like, they play hard, right? And the Kings don't have those styles of players. So I think that, again, we've seen, like, Harrison Barnes had, I mean, he was just a non-factor offensively. I thought he was solid defensively, but you really can't in a big game have a player play 30 something minutes and go 1 of 3 from the field. And so I think this is going to open up the conversation because, like, at some point you are going to have, if this team, if they're fine making the playoffs and being a solid team, that's one thing. But I don't think that that's their aspirations. I think they want to be better than that. And they're going to have to get better at 1 or 2 positions if that's going to be the case. And the easiest way to do that is probably at the small forward position or the power forward position and move Keegan Murray to the small forward position. So have you guys, like, I mean, obviously it's a huge talking point that we've heard over the last couple of days, but where are you guys at with the Harrison Barnes situation?
I mean, I think that this is something that we've known for like a year. You know, like, I kind of got confused by the timing. I thought HB was okay in that game. I know there's been a slow defensive decline for him, but I thought he did his job for the most part in that game against Zion. I think everybody obviously had moments they could have been better defensively. And sure, like, offensively, the 4 points really stands out. But like 3 shot attempts, like we just agreed, De'Aaron was pretty tough in that game offensively. Like, I don't know. I keep going back to HB. A lot of people, I feel like a common criticism is you just don't notice him when he's out there. And sometimes that's the case, but I don't think that's only a negative. Like, people notice good things and they notice bad things. And if you're not noticing anything, that means, there's not much of either, but that's fine. Like, there's value in a guy that doesn't make that many mistakes. And I still think that HB is that guy and a fine 5th starter. It's just that the Kings need somewhere in their 2, 3, 4 a number 3 guy to go next to De'Aaron and Domas if we really want to talk about this team getting to the next level. And I think that's been known for a little while. I think HB's been a common trade candidate because of everything we just mentioned, and he probably has the most tradable salary on the team, right next to Kevin Huerter. So I think that this has been a known thing for a little while. But there's a lot of teams around the league that would love Harrison Barnes. Like, I think Milwaukee would be glad to have Harrison Barnes starting over Malik Beasley. Like, I think that the Clippers would love to have Harrison Barnes starting over Terrence Mann, or maybe that one's a close one. But like, there's a lot of teams in the league where HB is a really good 5th starter. It's that the Kings need a number 3.
Yeah, and I would even say, like, Brenden, to add to that, it's not even like there are some teams that are good teams that he would be more than a 5th starter. It's just that the Kings are, like, offensively, they're gifted, right? So you've got a bunch of shooters. You are really good offensively. So, like, even a team like the Lakers, like, they could use a guy like Harrison Barnes. There are a lot of teams that could use a guy like Harrison Barnes. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I mean, I don't really have much to add to it. I mean, I think part of the problem is, and we've talked about it in previous shows, is the fact that, I mean, really, you've got Keegan and Harrison who are almost similar in a lot of ways. It's Keegan obviously has the green light to look for a shot and shoot more so than HB ever has, and HB is obviously there for a lot of spacing and defense, and they'd like him to probably rebound a lot more. And we've talked about that at nauseum, but he was your insurance in the event that Keegan wasn't ready. And so far, even though it's been a tough start for Keegan in a way because of the injury and just maybe because of playing with a little added weight to him and his body has changed, and maybe they're not running. I mean, obviously we see they're not running like they were last year. There are certain factors that have come along the way to show that Keegan Murray he's fine. But he hasn't taken this like dramatic leap offensively. And I think a lot of it because, they're working with physicality and they're working with him, trying to improve defensively. And I think that's a good thing. I think the problem is, though, in my mind, it's just my opinion, and it's why I've said it for the better part of 2 or 3 years. I just don't think they have their true 3. They need a absolute stud. And when people ask me what this team needs, it's always the first thing that comes to mind. I think right now, as they're currently constituted, you could argue that you still need some piece to help you in the front court with Domas, who can help you rebound and I don't necessarily want to say rim protector so much, but like if you had a Paul George, if you had a like if you had a player like that you could pair next to him, not necessarily Miles Turner or anything like that, but obviously Jaren Jackson would probably be something that would be a player like that would be absolutely coveted. But to me, it's that absolute three, that person that you would look at and say, oh, it's a Kawhi Leonard, oh, it's a Pascal Siakam, oh, it's a Jason Tatum, somebody like that who has a big presence and is an offensive threat and is long enough to be impactful on the defensive end and still clog up the passing lanes and things like that. So it's always the thing that leaps off the page for me, but he's very tradable in Harrison Barnes. It's a very tradable piece. I think it's just a little I just think he's an unfair target a lot of times. And to your point, Brenden, when you're talking about not noticing him out there, sure, I get that. But I think Mike Brown does a pretty solid job of when those moments happen, he adjusts. And if Harrison Barnes isn't going to be that guy on a specific night, he doesn't have to roll with him, and he ends up getting less minutes than any other starter. I think
he's fine with that.
He's completely fine with that. And I also think that where the tough part is in for example, the last game, he's playing such a role defensively. You really don't need him to score. But it would have been nice given the game that De'Aaron Fox was having. Problem is De'Aaron Fox has got there turning the ball over all over the place. And we've talked about, at least in my opinion, and I think the numbers show this too, that Harrison Barnes is at his best with De'Aaron Fox on the floor and Fox setting him up. And also to that point, like, you still got 85 shots up. Like, it's not a problem. He doesn't need to shoot the ball. I think there's bigger issues at play with Harrison when it comes to defense spacing, having him actually rebound. I mean, things like that will help this team. But when you have Keegan and him, you can obviously see there needs to be a different type of player on the floor than the two of them almost playing a similar similar physical space in the starting five.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like, I mean, Sean, you brought up like Paul George and Jaren Jackson. So first of all, you're not getting Jaren Jackson.
Neither one of them. Well, maybe Paul George, but not. Yeah, but not until off season.
You're not getting Paul George because Paul George is owed $49 million next year, and he's at 48 this year, and that would roughly cost you like 3 starters to go out and trade for him. Like, you'd have to break everything up this season and start over because his salary is so tremendously large, right? So, but here's what I'm going to say too. Like, I think that, like, we always talk about roster construction, and the Kings really fell in love with the idea of bringing Sasha Vezenkov over, right? And then they also were very appreciative of what Trey Lyles brought to the table last year. And they also believe that Keegan Murray is going to be a star. So when we start adding these pieces up, the problem is that if you believe all those things to be true, then how do you put that group of 4 together? Like, we all can see that they're lacking length and athleticism, right? And so if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to bring in these 4 players, you already have Keegan, you re-signed Harrison, you brought Sasha over, you re-signed Trey Lyles, all of your minutes at the 3 and 4 are now gone. And you didn't address the need. And so it doesn't matter, like, whether, Kessler Edwards has gotten better. Like, it doesn't matter because he can't get on the court because you have already 4 other dudes that are playing the minutes at those positions. And so that's why, like, this is almost like the safe move was to bring Harrison Barnes back. But the real move was to find somebody who had the length and athleticism that would complement Sasha and Trey and Keegan, because I don't think that Harrison Barnes is doing anything wrong. I just think that your roster is now wrong for him. And if that makes sense, and like, you cannot disguise the fact that he can't do some of the things that you need to do. And you don't have anyone else to take his spot, but now you got him under contract for 3 years. So while I think he's still a really good player, and I think he can he can fit on so many different rosters. Like, it's tough for me to say that he fits with the other three guys, or that those guys fit with him. So I think Keegan fits with all of them, but then the others, like, how do you fix this problem? You have a logjam at a position, and you don't have the needs of the position taken care of, if that makes
Well,
sense.
they're also never done. Like going from
No,
the offseason into opening day didn't mean they had a like, there the cake is made. It's not it's not that it's never the case. It's a fluid situation always. It's also you factor people. I don't understand why they don't factor this in as well. But you also extended Domantas Sabonis, like that takes a big chunk of the offseason pie. So going out there and finding guys that, yeah, you might be able to find a guy that can certainly fit the position, but is he good enough? Is he warranted? Is he good enough to earn that money and fit with your players? And there's a lot of things that go into that. Harrison Barnes, you already know, with Keegan and Harrison Barnes, you were third in the West. Yes, it was a first round playoff exit, which took the Warriors 7 games. Like you reward that. You have some very movable pieces. You have a lot of depth that you can make a trade. And I don't think any of us were disagreeing with this fact that, Harrison Barnes could very well be moved before the deadline or at the deadline. And again, the way I look at that is he was your insurance in the event Keegan Murray took it doesn't happen by osmosis. He doesn't necessarily take the big leap. If he can just duplicate what he did last year, that'll go a long way. But if he takes a step back and he isn't the Keegan Murray that you thought you had at one point, that's why you have this. You mentioned somebody like Kessler Edwards. Is there an opportunity that comes of him? Keon Ellis has had opportunities. Those are kind of pie in the sky. Like the opportunity is not necessarily like Harrison Barnes is better than those guys. And there's a trust there that Mike Brown has with Harrison Barnes to go out there and execute. And again, we talk about this all the time. He can be a frustrating player. I mean, I've certainly documented my frustrations with him, but at the end of the year, you're going to look back and you're going to say, oh man, there's the stats. And again, the last 2 years have been among his best as a pro. So, and they've won. And so I think he's an easy target for scoring, certainly, but that's not what they need.
I would agree with that. All right. We've been doing Prize Picks. Of course, the Kings Beat podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. I think, like, for those of you out there who don't do Prize Picks, it's just a really cool and exciting way to add a new element to your watching of a game, where you actually have some sort of stake in what's happening. Maybe a little bit, maybe you don't. I don't know. We've been having a good time doing it. It's become a major topic of discussion with all of our media friends. Brenden, are you still playing? You still winning?
No, I did 2 throughout the course of this year, and I knew after the first one I said on here before that I shouldn't, and I did it one more time and got reminded real quick why I do not.
Yeah. Well, I'd say with fantasy football winding down, and the in-season tournament over, and now it's back to like basics with the NBA. You have all kinds of opportunities to mix and match between NFL, NBA. You can play both on the same day, but I think it's going to be something that a lot of people look forward to moving forward, especially again with fantasy reaching like playoff status here in the next week or two. So if you're interested in Prize Picks, jump on board. There's a link down below in the description. And that's a link that is directly attributed to the Kings Beat. Again, it's a good time. I've had a great time playing. I am not good at it at all. It's probably because I do 6 picks every single game, which is like ridiculously silly on my part, but it's still fun. And again, I think if you're with a group of people and you all choose different things, or everyone picks the same thing and it's that Malik Monk won't get an offensive rebound, then it adds this element where everyone is hanging on every single play and whether Malik Monk is going to get an offensive rebound. It's fun. So again,
and just to be clear on my end, I have a good time with it. I just let it go from Kings games. And I do think the in-season tournament makes for very interesting dynamics if you're going higher or lower than with the point differential. I guess the finals at the point we're at now doesn't matter with that anymore, but
that's right. All right, cool. So yeah, jump on board with Prize Picks. Let's see. We've talked a little bit about this, but Keegan Murray hasn't taken the leap, and I know part of it's because of injuries, part of it's because he just got off to a funky start, and also like starting and stopping and not having like building games. Like it's something that we've talked about with like Marvin Bagley in the past. Like it wasn't just a Marvin Bagley missed games. It's that he had like he would start out, he'd play like 8 games, and then he'd miss 5, and then he'd play for 12 games, and then he'd miss 3. And there's always like this stopping and starting. And it's something that Keegan didn't have to deal with last year. But we're coming to the point in the season where, like all of these trade rumors are going to start ramping up again. And that's part of the NBA. December 15th is the first date that you can trade players that you acquired during the offseason. December 29th, for some reason, is a day that you can trade Harrison Barnes. And then, of course, the trade deadline is, I think it's February 9th, February 10th, something like that. But Keegan is still exempt, right? Like you still look at this as, you still think that the Kings look at this as like he's their third, and you hope that you can add a third/fourth, but like he's untouchable, right?
No,
Nobody is
not untouchable. James. Like Tyrese was untouchable.
This is the dumbest shit ever. Look, people think, oh, he'll never trade. Look, if someone said, I'm going to give you Giannis for Keegan and work out a deal, you'd go, okay.
Oh, no, or just Paul George, like we talked about earlier.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's nobody is untouchable. It's the most idiotic thing people say. I hate that. I hate that.
That's funny.
It would take an established guy that you knew could step into that role that you're thinking Keegan could potentially blossom into, because you would always take the guarantee over the hypothetical. I mean, there's a lot of aspects that play a part here, obviously age, control, and money, all of that. But yeah,
money. Yeah, I mean, if you can have production out of a player who makes significantly less than what you are used to paying a veteran player to do the same type of production, you factor that in.
Okay, but like the Kings aren't trading him for like a fringe all-star type player. Like even if they understand what an established player is doing, and they see a track record, like they're not doing that. So like what Brenden, what you said there was like, oh, if you can get an established and you can trade, basically the prospect for straight up productivity. But I don't think that that's the case. Like if they were ever going to trade him, it would have to be in a massive deal where they were getting someone back that was well above what we're thinking. Or am I crazy?
I mean, I think like Paul George, Jaren Jackson fall in this, like guys that are fringe all-stars sort of, or just obviously that have been all-stars for a little while. But like, I don't know. I don't think it takes too much for him to be in the deal. Like obviously there's a lot of parallels with Denver. People love to point at that. But they're 2, 3, 4, KCP, MPJ, and Aaron Gordon, like are probably, there's probably only one King better than one of those guys. I guess Keegan's maybe better than KCP. Like, and we don't even know for sure, I guess my point, that Keegan can become a Michael Porter Jr.
Okay.
I see the optimism, obviously. Like he's very intriguing as a player, but like if the right guy becomes available, say something happens in Miami and Jimmy Butler becomes available, you know what I mean? Like this is super pie in the sky, but I think there's guys out there.
You think that they would trade him for like a 33-year-old, like even a Paul George, like a 33-year-old fading star?
I think it'd be a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, the object's to win a championship,
Okay.
You had one of those guys on the team and your odds just increased dramatically.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I mean, it's going to be an interesting discussion because like when the Kings are calling teams, the first name that's coming up is Keegan Murray. And I think the Kings are going to do everything in their power to make him not part of the discussion. And of course,
I think you can often build good deals without Keegan, right? That are, say, Kevin and Harrison is likely needed for matching salaries in a lot of these big guys. And then a whole lot of draft picks. The Kings still have all their draft picks, but next year, and then they can't use the year after, say they were to call Atlanta and get rid of the protections. which I think they could do pretty easily. They have a lot of draft picks they could throw out there, but it's not about creating a good deal. It's about creating the best deal. And I think a lot of opposing deals often have one solid asset in there. And maybe you can argue Harrison or Kevin is that. But if we're talking one of these top guys, it takes usually like a young prospect along with picks.
I think it's amusing too, because like when we signed on for this chat, I didn't expect it to go this way. I didn't expect to be, here we are nearing the 20th game of the season, and we're talking about obviously needs. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation that people will have all the time about, how do they get better? How do they improve? And, what do they need? And so I like the conversation for sure. Just didn't expect it to go this like, this as if we're approaching the trade deadline next week.
But why it did, right?
Well, to a degree. I mean, you consider we where some of the weaknesses are, but I would say, and I'm trying to remember the player that said it, and I want to say it was Trey Lyles on Wednesday when we talked to him, because one of the questions I was curious about was typically coaches will say you get 20 games, 25 games into a season to where you really know your team, and I think it was Trey who said that we don't really know this team. Like certainly we have personnel from last year, but they've dealt with injuries and they haven't looked like themselves in terms of the way they pushed the ball from last year. There's been some circumstances. There's been such a focus on defense and physicality to where there's still a big question mark of what this team currently is. And I kind of agree with that because especially after talking to Domas after the game, after the loss to the Pelicans, like he's of the opinion they're just fine. And you look at the teams that they've lost to, and I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but
there's
their
only
losses,
3 of them, 4.
Yeah. You've lost to how many teams?
4 total.
4 teams,
lost to the
right? Clippers, Rockets,
twice, the Rockets twice, the Pelicans 3 times, and the Clippers 1 time.
And it's really amazing when you think about your 19 games into the season and you've lost to, would you say 4 teams?
Yeah.
And I thought that Domas's take was remarkably refreshing because, as I have alluded to in previous podcasts, like it's not just the fans and media that are on this roller coaster. Like the players themselves are a little bit on the emotional roller coaster, and I thought it was I had kind of talked about that recently about how the ebbs and flows of the season, and we're not even at 20 games, and it feels like there's this ride or die mentality of you live with your team one day, you die with them the next. And I think you forget just how great they looked when they were on their 6-game win streak, and that was primarily on the road. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic for. And certainly you lose 3 to the Pelicans, you can see that that's a really bad mismatch. I mean, I was bringing that up after the first 2 games. I said, I think that team's a really tough out for any team in a 7-game playoff series, even ones that are battle tested and have been there and done that. And
the Pelicans?
The Pelicans are just a long physical team that outside of really Denver, maybe the Lakers tonight after seeing what they did, because they're obviously a long team as well, but I don't love their shooting, but certainly they give them a mismatch. They give them a battle. There's just a lot of teams that are trying to get that way, and the Kings are one of them.
And the Kings have beat the 5 teams above them in the standings already.
Right.
Yeah, but it's the teams below them that they're. I mean, okay. So here, in my opinion, the reason why we're having this discussion is because you just got clubbed by the Pelicans 3 times in a row. If you played the Pelicans in a 7-game series, you are not beating them.
I don't know about that.
If you're the Kings, well, you're gonna win a game or 2 maybe, but you're not beating them. They're a better team than you. They're a bad. That. Okay, so look, I think the Kings are a better team.
James, they're also healthy right now. How often have we been able to say that about the Pelicans?
Well, yes, I get
that. Come the playoffs, that team could look different.
No, that's totally true, and so could the Kings. So I totally agree with that. But my point is that that I think the Kings are a better team than the Pelicans, but I think the Pelicans are a better matchup against the Kings. And again, we're having this discussion because I don't think the Kings move forward maybe they can get to the second round of the playoffs and they have aspirations of winning a championship. Maybe they can somehow squeak through the second round. like this team is not playing for a championship right now, not the way they're currently constructed, because it's not just them. I mean, you think Brandon Ingram's tough? Like,
sure.
what happens when you face Jason Tatum, who's just a much better version?
Yeah. But to your point about the Pelicans, though, we're also December 7th, and yeah, you've played them 3 times, but this is not. I mean, the Kings could have beat them tonight. I'll tell you that much.
My answer would be that this is. You're right. It's December, but like this has been the problem for the last 2 years. Like they haven't addressed the same exact problem. And so it's just sitting there.
I think they've
like
tried to address it.
There was positive progress last year, and I just don't think everything's linear. Like, we know what they need. We kind of just laid that out. But you have to be patient to wait for that guy. Like, you saw how long Monty held on to Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield, just like waiting for the right deal, even if it was obvious that those guys needed to eventually be moved on from. I forget its exact wording, but it's something along the lines of being aggressive but patient. And I think that we often see them function that way. So I'm sure they will be active in searching. But like, say you take this other big swing, it's probably using most of your assets, and you better be damn sure that that is the right move. And because you're going to be it's going to be tough to make more beyond that. So while I agree with you, I don't think they're in championship contention this year, obviously.
Right.
I'm also saying I don't think that needs to happen this year. No. Like, a lot of their guys are locked up. Malik's the one question mark. But like, a lot of their guys are locked up, and I think that you can kind of be patient. Like, you want Keegan to get a little bit better. Maybe De'Aaron and Domas can continue to up their game. Like, I agree with you. I just don't think it needs to happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not hitting a panic button. I'm just pointing to, like, as Mike likes to say, the pink elephant in the room. Like, there's a giant pink elephant in the room. It's called you don't have any length and athleticism at the 3 and the 4. And it just keeps sitting there. And God bless Mike. It's not like he chose the roster. Like, sure, he's had some input, but this isn't his roster. He has a hand that he's being dealt, and he's got to make the most of it. And at the end of the day, like, you can't ask a group of offensive, even like, you can call them an offensive juggernaut from last season. You can't just ask them to be better defensive players overnight, and it's not going to happen. I mean, overnight or at all. Like, this team, like, sure, could they get better defensively? Yeah, they can do that organically, but like, taking a leap defensively, you got to have better defensive players. And it can't be.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, your offensive improvements can't be predicated on you literally going out and signing a 35-year-old center or a 28-year-old player from Europe that isn't known for his defense. Like, there weren't
pretty well defensively, by the way.
Surprisingly well defensively. I enjoy watching Sasha play defense, but like, he's not the answer that to the question, right?
Well, not right now. I mean, I think he's got I think Mike always tries to bring up the Manu Ginobili comparison in terms of learning the game, and I think that's wise, because same thing with Tony Parker. I mean, guys just didn't necessarily flourish right out of the gate. That it took him a minute, and I think it will for Sasha as well. And yeah, he may not ever get there, but I think he's been a nice little positive factor for them at times this year, and it's kind of trending the right way for him. I think a lot of it stems on the offensive end. I mean, if this team was looking more like what they were doing last year, which no team has ever done, so it's you kind of need to point that out, that it was a history-making offensive juggernaut team that they had. But like, this team is built around 3-point shooting, right? And they're a top 10 in makes, but when it comes to converting their threes, they're 20th in the league right now.
Yeah.
And I think, when I saw that yesterday, I don't know if it was yesterday or this morning. These days, man, they're just blending together. I mean, it was surprising to see that they've dipped as low as 20 now. And I think it was actually even lower than that.
21st as of today.
In offense?
Yeah.
Oh, defense. Sorry.
Oh, defense. Yeah.
No, I was talking about even the 3-point percentage, like top 10 and 3 points made, but 3-point percentage is like down. Like, it's down.
It's been around 20, 22 all season long.
Right. And I think I was going to say, it was even lower at one point, but you kind of expect that to increase a little bit, and that just hasn't happened. They're just kind of hovering right there now.
Yeah, and they're also missing threes in big moments. I mean, that's another thing that, like the one
Sometimes
guy
they
that
rely on it too much. I mean, they've like
Oh
some
yeah,
of the game that they won against. Trying to think. The
Denver.
Warriors game. No, the Warriors game. When they beat the Warriors, they stopped shooting threes and packed the paint. I mean, I had a stat. I think they've only had one loss this year when they have less than 50 points or more than 50 points in the paint. To me, it's kind of obvious. Like, I know this is a 3-point shooting league now, but I think they look at it so frequently that they're passing up easy buckets that's just around the paint. And we've seen Fox. Like Fox, when he gets going, he can get to his spot, hit that free throw extended, and it's automatic.
yeah. When he decides to break a team down, there's no one who can stay in front of him. But then teams are doing, they're walling off the inside. They're trying to do, like kind of what teams are doing to Zion, and just but as a guard that they're trying to do the same. They're just clogging the lane. And I'm going to point out this from Thomas Lancaster again. We're asking these questions because Mike says they're going for a championship, and
Every team
I agree.
Yeah.
But if they keep saying it and they keep saying that that's what their goal is, then you have to okay, how do you get to that goal? Because as of today, I don't think the roster's built for that. I think they can be a really good team, but talking championship is another level. Let's see. We've had a couple more. So the Kings play the Phoenix Suns tomorrow. It's the first time they played the Suns. The Suns are again beat up all the time, but it's also like a scheduling anomaly now. They will play the Suns 5 times this season as a potential as a division rival, and because of the play-in tournament. For those of you who missed why the Kings have to travel to Phoenix, there's a really specific reason, and it's because the Kings were the home team in game 1 and the Suns were the road team. They're trying to keep the 41-41 balance of road and home. And the reason why they would have played in LA or in Phoenix, no matter whether they won or lost, was because if it came down to them and the Lakers were the higher seed in the in season. So number one, the Lakers had a tiebreaker against them, and number two, the Suns played on the road in their opener. So in order to keep the schedule square at 41, that's why they did this. We've had some other interesting developments. Chris Duarte's been in and out of the rotation, but it looks like he missed the game the other night because he was sick or something.
He's been dealing with knee soreness.
Oh, a knee soreness. That's
he's questionable right now.
Okay, and then Davion Mitchell was a healthy scratch.
He was the illness. Yeah, he was the non-COVID related illness.
He
showed up to shoot around that day, was a little sick, and they sent him home.
Which day?
That was prior to what was our last game, the New Orleans game.
Oh, he got sent.
No,
it was the game before that.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the Clipper game, I thought.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because he was there for the New Orleans game and did not play. Are we seeing that Mike is going back to Keon Ellis, or do we have any idea there? Because it feels like this team, for some reason, wins when Keon plays.
It does. It does appear to be that way when he has been elevated in the rotation. But no, I don't know that he has a hard, fast, this is my guy. These are my guys. I think it's very equal opportunity at the moment and based on matchups. And I'm really actually eager to watch this game on Friday with the Suns, because I think, especially with how beat up they are, there's no Kevin Durant playing in that game. Obviously no Bradley Beal, but I'm curious to see what kind of lineups he goes with in that one.
Yeah, and also no Grayson Allen. Obviously, still no Damian Lee. I think right now, and by the way, it was the Denver game when that was for Davion.
Oh, okay.
I think that right now it's kind of Keon's job to lose. And, he seems to be the one that Mike is currently going to in that backup spot. And maybe there could be certain matchups where that makes him change his mind. But to me, it seems like Keon is the guy. And until he slips up a little bit, which is going to happen one of these games, he's still a young player in year two-way guy. At some point, he's going to have some tough stretches, and you have Davion right there to go back to and get an opportunity. So again, I think it's Keon's job to lose right now, but Davion will still get an opportunity in my mind.
Okay. I would agree. I would not be surprised if Davion is moved between now and the deadline. Just because it just doesn't seem like it's working out all that well. And, it's not like he's the only one from his draft class that's kind of in the same situation. I mean, we're watching this Jonathan Kuminga thing play out, who was the number 7 pick in that draft. And like he was out of the rotation and then somehow came back in the rotation to beat the Portland Trailblazers, which I think tells you a lot about where the Golden State Warriors are right now.
There's Zaire Williams in Memphis, but there is Moody playing well for the Warriors, and there's Şengün playing well for the Rockets. So, a little bit.
Şengün's been amazing.
Oh yeah, he's been
really good.
Have you guys looked at his stats? I looked at it. Yeah. I was like shocked.
It's ridiculous.
Early All-Star consideration.
Yeah, is it like 21-9 and I mean 21 points and 9 rebounds? Yeah, like really, really interesting what's happening there. Outside of that, was there any other major takeaways you guys had from the Pelicans games? The one thing I thought was strange. Well, I don't think it was strange. It intrigued me was how much Domantas Sabonis and I think he was representative of the team, but how much they wanted to play in Vegas and wanted to go to Vegas for the week. Did you guys? I mean, it wasn't like he was looking to go party, but it was like, hey, a week in Vegas in the middle of the season and to get all that exposure, like, yeah, we were totally in. Were you a little like taken aback by like he was really honest about how much he wanted to play and advance in the in-season tournament?
I think Domas has been really honest about it from the beginning, and I think his wording from the locker room was something along the lines of like, well, it's the biggest stage. Like, this is what we play basketball for, to be on the biggest stage. And this is as big as it gets prior to the postseason. So, I mean, I think that they definitely had bought in. De'Aaron had talked about how there will only ever be one first winner of this and related it to his clutch player of the year. So I think the guys cared, but there was like a lot of questions today about a potential almost like hangover or like needing to get your guys rejuiced. And I don't think there's necessarily anything of that. We'll see. I do think it's interesting to see how the team that wins and the teams that went to the finals get affected as this year goes on. But from Sacramento's perspective, like definitely could tell it sucked. They lost and they felt that, but I think they're on from it.
It's something that I know we've talked about how this tournament is kind of this, it's going to be an evolving deal. Like what the idea of what of this tournament this year, there will be things next year that will be just different in terms of the way they plot things out. And I think one of the things that probably needs to be addressed is the fact that if you're a team that's bounced early, you obviously have to play games because Monday is the knockout round in this circumstance, and the Kings, by virtue of them losing to the Pelicans, shouldn't have to play a team like the Lakers or the Suns who advanced to the knockout round. They should, in my opinion, play somebody that didn't advance to the knockout round. Especially as the number 2 seed, who the Kings were, maybe they're scheduled against a team that was bounced, like a lower echelon team that or whatever.
The Warriors get to play the Trailblazers,
right,
and they would have been in the Kings' shoes if not.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at the Timberwolves, I think did they get the Spurs or somebody? It wasn't a very quality opponent either, if I remember correctly. And there they are sitting at the top of the Western Conference, who, by the way, they only lost 4 times, and I'm starting to think that is not an anomaly at the moment.
Yeah, and their one home loss is still, they're 10-1 at home. Their one home loss is the Kings. Yeah. I think it's crazy too. The Spurs have lost 15 in a row, and the Pistons. I think they started 2-1, and they've lost 18 in a row. 18 in a row.
I can't even imagine. You guys probably can't.
Yeah.
No, I think the worst we
Covered
had
a 17-win team, man. That's it's a lot of
I see. I
losing.
didn't. I did cover the season where they had the 2 9-game losing streaks, and then my first season they lost 15 out of 16. They had like an 8-game winning streak. I mean 8-game losing streak, and then they beat the Washington Wizards on John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins' first game against each other, but John Wall got hurt in warmups and hurt his wrist and was announced as a starter, but then didn't play. And then the Kings lost 7 after that. So 8 and then 1 win and then 7. So yeah, I've seen some pretty tough stuff, but not like that. I don't think I've seen double digit losing streak.
I'm actually I'm going to look it up and see what the longest streak was in that 17-game season and see if somebody can beat me to it on the chat, but I'm going to try and find it.
Okay.
The one other thing I'll say about that New Orleans game is I think obviously kind of went under the radar for obvious reasons, but I thought Domas played a hell of a game. 26 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, a block, 10 of 10 from the free throw line. I think is super underrated. He was doing horrible from the free throw line. And going up there and knocking down 10 of them was big time. I thought that he had a great game, specifically that first half.
I'd also point out too that I know a lot of people are like, well, look at what Valanciunas did. Like the entire defense shifted to slow down both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. And that's why Herb Jones and Valanciunas got open looks. That was a structural, it was a decision by the coaching staff. You could see that their focus was shifting away. And so I definitely thought that, that was like by design. Like if you're going to get beat, you weren't going to get beat by Zion in that game, and you weren't going to get beat by Brandon Ingram. You were going to get beat by all those other guys.
The answer was 9. They had 2 8-game losing streaks and a 9-game losing streak to end the season, basically.
And the 17 wins.
The 08-09 Kings, coached by Reggie Theus, they ended the season with a win over the Timberwolves, but that was the final game of the year. But yeah, 9 in a row, and then they suffered 2 8-game losing streaks.
Is that the season Kenny Nat finished?
No. Yes, it was. He went to Reggie Theus went 6-18. Kenny Nat went 11-47.
What was their draft situation that following offseason?
Actually, they had 3. They had 3 8-game losing streaks and 1 9-game losing streak.
That's did you say 08-09?
Yeah. The
okay,
08-09 season.
09, they were the worst team in the NBA, and they fell to number 4, where they did not get Blake Griffin. They missed on Hasheem Thabit with the next pick. The next pick was James Harden, and the Kings they passed on Ricky Rubio and took Tyreek Evans with the 4th pick. And then after that, it went Rubio and Johnny Flynn, and then Steph Curry at number 7. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The Luka draft all over again. No. Sweet. Okay, let's see. We've got to do the business of basketball. I think that my question is this: like, first of all, we just watched like a star being born in the in-season tournament, but it's been brewing for the last 3 years. Tyrese Halliburton just looks like a genius on the court, and he's making his team so much better. And this isn't about the trade, because look, trades happen, and I think both teams made out really well in that deal. But as people who covered Tyrese as a young player in his first year and a half, and got to see sort of like the joy that he brings to everything, how cool has it been to watch him? Like, what did he have tonight? Like 26 points, 15 assists, and 0 turnovers. Like, to watch him grow into basically Steve Nash 2.0.
Yeah, only he can put up buckets too. I mean, the guy is finding ways to score in big moments. It's fun. It's fun, and it's you always knew he had that feel. You always knew he could dish the ball, and great feel for the game, but and incredibly smart. But his scoring is probably what's surprising me the most. And the way he can still get his shot off. I know that was a concern for teams when he came into the league because it's a little bit funky in release and a little slow, but he gets it off and it goes down. And I wouldn't have thought that he'd be able to put up numbers on the offensive end from a scoring standpoint as frequently as he's doing with regularity. But he makes everyone better. What type of player he is with the ball in his hands, and it's just wild to see like ESPN be like, or I don't know if it was ESPN or Bleacher Report, but showing Tyrese and De'Aaron Fox in Kings uniforms and being like, oh, can you imagine like if this had stayed together? And yeah, sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they win.
We watched it, and it wasn't going to be like this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's averaging 26-9. Go ahead.
I think they potentially could have worked for what it's worth, but that's a whole different conversation. I think like the big development with Tyrese this year, obviously, as Sean pointed out, and you saw it last year when he was in Indiana too, the start of it, is just how willing he is to take those shots. I think it was a offseason piece with Zach Lowe. He talked about like a lot of this offseason for him was really mentally accepting that sometimes I'm going to have to kind of be like a selfish asshole when it comes to my shot attempts because I'm supposed to be leading my team. And I think you've seen him totally embrace that. And it's cool to see how much his like family is getting embraced too. You know, they're on the broadcast after the game today in between the showings or like post-game interview. He's getting asked about having this moment and he's like, it's not my moment, it's our moment. I love the Dame time after he hits a huge step back three to really put that game away. Like he's so fun to watch and it feels infectious like it did when he was here.
Yeah.
And boy, did he hate Brenden.
Hated me.
Hated. Do you guys ever play 2K?
That's not true.
No.
Yeah, I just watching him. It's just we literally are getting to see another star being born in the league, which it's great for the league. I did not expect him, even after watching him the couple of years we did watch him. Like I did not expect him to score 26.9 a game like he is right now. Like to me, that's
I don't
crazy.
think anybody did.
Yeah, I mean, like we knew he's a great shooter. It's just we always thought he was going to have more. Like he would be too unselfish, and man, he runs that team. It's crazy. And hat tip to Rick Carlisle, who's again I think one of the best coaches in the NBA. Just absolutely spectacular coach, and has that team. I don't know that they are as good as what we saw today, and they're putting up a ton of points. They remind me a lot of the Kings under Dave Yeager in the final year of Dave Yeager, where they just ran and did crazy stuff.
Or the Kings from last year, even.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe, but there's no defense being played at all, and I guess that's the case with the Kings too. But I've never seen a team who's rated like they have like the lowest offensive rating. I mean, defensive rating, or they're 28th or 29th in offensive rating. I mean, defensive rating, and still have a positive net rating. That's crazy talk. Like they're like number 6 in net rating, despite the fact that they're the worst defensive rated team in the league. That's just totally bizarre. So, all right, let's cut this thing short. We're not short. It's like
I mean,
funny, Sean.
No, it's and I'm just thinking of him saying those stats and then thinking to what you said a minute ago, or last year's Kings team, because they were very poorly defensive rating. They were very high offensive rating, and yeah,
there's a couple teams around the league like that now that are just like really tough defensively in a bad way and amazing offensively.
Well, that's also to the point of just here we are December 7th. There's not a lot of defense being played ever. And they don't really buckle down until you kind of have to, I guess. Just let it fly. These guys are just putting up numbers.
So right now the Pacers are up. Their net rating is a 3.8, a positive 3.8, which is 7th in the NBA. Their defensive rating is a 119.8, which is 28th worst in the league. They're just barely above Washington and Charlotte. And then their offensive rating is it's 123.5, which would be the highest of all time. It would surpass the Kings of last year. And their pace is crazy. A 104 pace. Like it's a blast to watch. I just don't know if it can be, if it's got the substance to last during the playoffs and last during the last 25 games of the season. We'll see. Let's see. Let's do final thoughts. What do we got? Brenden, you got any final thoughts?
I don't think I really do. Mike Brown has been very much, we've heard him and the players repeat that the last 3 games, they were pretty much 30th in every defensive metric. And they are very on fixing their defense right now. Little details like closeouts, rotations. That has very much been a theme these last 2 days of practice. So just throw that in there.
Yeah. Sean?
Well, before I get to my final thoughts, maybe we can get some questions. Oh, there's no questions.
good
is
idea.
Oh my gosh, we forgot to take questions from the audience.
There's no questions. Hey, get them in now, and I like the ones that aren't basketball related. So anyway,
Okay.
I would say good luck. I know since I mentioned it in the last podcast, good luck to the 4 teams from the area: Folsom Bulldogs, Grant Pacers, Woodland Christian Cardinals, right? Yeah, and the Calusa Red Hawks. I think that's what they are. I was up there today. I can't remember if they're Redbird or Red Hawk. I think they're Red Hawk, but I could be wrong.
Red Hawk
I
sounds way
literally
better.
went to the town of Calusa. That's a culture shock. But what a town! They all come out. I mean, they all come out to support their team. They're off to state. You have 4 state champions NorCal champions from our area who are going to state, and that's going to be really exciting for them. So it'll be fun to see who comes out on top on Friday and Saturday, but good luck to them.
So you said Grant and who else? Grant, who is the
Folsom Bulldogs.
Folsom. Okay.
Yeah, so that's Division 1A. Grant Pacers, which are Division 2 AA, or maybe I got the A's mixed up. I think Folsom is the AA, and Grant, who came up from Division 3 to Division 2, is now in Division 2. And then Woodland Christian and Calusa, they're 6 and 7. Calusa is one of those teams that are in the north section, not the Sac Joaquin section that most places cover, but still in our viewing area.
Sean, did you go to Elk Grove or did you go to Sheldon?
No. I graduated Elk Grove. I was only there for like a year and a half or so. But
okay, cool. That's what I thought. Somebody asked. From Brian A. Why aren't the Giants making more noise than the Shohei Ohtani? There's a reason for that.
Yeah, that's because no one's making noise in the Ohtani front,
because
except for
his
Dave
agent
Roberts
told everybody to shut up. We're not doing this in the press, and if you
Dave
decide
Roberts
to do it in the press, you're out.
Dave Roberts comes out. I can't lie. Yeah, we've talked to him, and he did everything that they were told not to do. So I hope the Giants can land him. That's a huge fish to land, probably upwards of $600 million.
That was a rumor today that the Giants have the largest offer in place, which is $600 million.
Because they're tired of getting left at the altar.
A lot of money. Yeah. But if you're Ohtani, do you really want to go to another Angels situation where they don't have the players around you? I don't know.
Someone asked if Sean's
First
going
of all, how
to...
dare you?
Yeah, yeah.
Someone's asking if Sean's going in any upcoming concerts. Well, thanks for asking me, but I'm going to T-Pain tomorrow, so I'm super excited for that.
He's skipping the Ham Christmas party to go to T-Pain.
It's true. Hate to break it to you.
And I think that means 2 of us will not be covering the Kings game tomorrow night. Sean, are you covering the Kings game tomorrow night?
It's in Phoenix. What do you mean covering?
Are you gonna be watching? Are you gonna be on top of it? Is it gonna be part of your sports?
Yeah, I'll be watching it.
I'm not
definitely.
live tweeting anything.
I can't watch
you
both.
Won't get
I'll
6
watch
quick
both.
stuff. You're gonna watch T-Pain and the Kings?
Yeah,
Probably you could probably get that. Well, no, because they probably go on the stage about 9 o'clock, right? Because you have.
I honestly don't even know right now. Yeah, Flow Ride is opening.
And what's it? The Kings game's at 6, right? Yeah. It's they're off, their timing. They're not.
You can DVR it,
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll watch on Saturday. Yeah, I'll watch on Saturday for sure.
Ryan, fantastic question. Eggnog, yay or nay? It depends on what's in it.
I don't mind it.
I say yes.
I like eggnog, but every time it gives me stomachache. That's just a lot of weird,
You
yeah.
put brandy in it? You got to go brandy, right?
Oh, yeah. Or are you just
doing no alcohol in it?
doing no alcohol in it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, like,
James
well,
doesn't
even
drink.
when I was a kid, I loved drinking it, and then I'm like, "Oh, my stomach hurts." That was a bad idea.
Well, Jesus, how much are you drinking?
Just a glass. I'm not going crazy.
Okay.
I'm not a milk drinker,
So
so
probably lactose intolerant or something, huh?
yeah, probably slightly lactose intolerant. Keegan Murray watch is Keegan playing, or is he going to be good
to
to
go.
go?
No, that's
Yeah.
not good to go. That's
Good,
GTD.
GT.
Guaranteed?
I don't
Guaranteed for
know.
the next month? I don't know what that
Damn,
means.
this is supposed to be
GTD?
me. I'm the young one.
What do you think?
I don't even know what the fuck he's asking,
clicked it.
so I can't answer the question.
No, is he playing tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, he's not on the injury report. Chris
He's not on the
Duarte
injury
is.
report. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Not on the injury report. That's interesting.
Game time decision. There we go. We got there eventually.
Sweet. There we go. This is a good one. Securing a beam. Best Christmas present. What's your best Christmas present ever?
Go ahead, Brennan.
Oh God, no! You go first.
I can go first.
Take me a sec. Okay.
We got an Atari 2600, so that was huge. With Frogger and Centipede and Space Invaders. Oh, and Pitfall. And then when I was probably 7th grade, we asked for a Commodore 64 and my parents like slow played it and we didn't get it. And then right at the last second, they brought out like 4 giant boxes because that's how big a Commodore 64 was. And we got me and my brother got a Commodore 64, which was cool. Probably my best Christmas presents.
Mine was probably a bike. Like it was like a cool bike. And then probably the NES. But that was like basically for the uncles and all the adults.
Getting paroled in early December. That's a great yeah. Where was that one? There we go.
This is the dude that always calls me Judas on Twitter. He just made an appearance.
Why are you Judas?
Judas.
But anytime I think I posted why De'Aaron's foul was still a foul that they challenged because he put 2 hands in his back, and I'm just a traitor, Sean.
Oh, see it.
Well, is it because you said something negative about the team or something like that? And
yeah.
Not fans here.
It's great.
It's great. Sorry.
I do love it. I think it's hilarious. I don't know. The first thing that came to mind is like there was a year when I got my first Celtics jersey. Hate to admit it. You want to guess the player?
Isaiah Thomas.
It's super random. No. This was
before
Isaiah
random?
Thomas. Well,
what year?
It's a starter. It's before Isaiah Thomas, right before. So probably
Antoine Walker. Yeah,
Paul
you're not
Pierce.
that old.
No, it's not. It's later than that. What year sort of are we?
Kevin Garnett.
Here? No, we'll get it. He's still on the team now.
Oh, see? Jaylen Brown?
No.
Still on the team now.
It's an Al Horford jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm an Al Horford guy. So I love Domas.
Wow. Okay. That's telling.
Yeah.
Florida State got absolutely screwed, Carlos B. Fly.
Yeah, that's brutal.
You wanted our thoughts. They did everything that was asked of them, and it just shows that college football is still an absolute joke when it comes to their playoff system.
Travis Shama mockery. That was just like, how do you have an undefeated season in a big conference and get completely screwed? Let's see. Tyler asked
the De'Aaron extension. I don't think we talked about that.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, duh.
Yeah.
Right. All around.
He's
supposed to turn it down.
The rumor was that De'Aaron was offered a 2-year, $110 million contract extension this summer. He would be a fool to take that because if he waits, number one, he can like every year he can't. He still has 2 years until he has 3 years left on his deal, I think. But his dollar his extension dollar goes way up, and it goes deeper into his career. So what you don't want to do is to become a free agent at 31 with then you're not going to get the same money that you should have got. You won't get the same years and all that stuff. So
105 for 2, 245 for 3, or for 4, excuse me, potentially. And then if you don't get your 245, you're still right at around 90 if you looked at what it would be for 2 years. So it's not a big risk to high reward. So yeah, it's like nonsensical. You absolutely do that.
Yeah, and if he becomes like a first team All NBA player, or he becomes like a top 3 MVP ballot guy, which, I'm not saying he's going to, he's going to be worth every dollar, and he will take every dollar. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, he's going to take the money. Somebody asked, Tyler Griner, no, you can't get a PS5 from here, but you
Why not?
can tune in on Monday and we're giving away a PS5. We'll do like caller number something, and Kyle will have to answer the phone. We have 5 PS5s to give away. One for each day this week on the Insiders on ESPN 1320. So everybody jump on board, because it's gonna it's huge. You get a PS5 and you get 2K, and I think we're going to announce another gift that goes with it tomorrow. So pretty spectacular.
It's a good
I'm
gift.
super excited, because I'm hoping that a couple of people get them that maybe couldn't afford to buy that gift for their kid for Christmas, and you're going to hit the lottery, because that's going to be like a huge Christmas gift for somebody.
I am not going to Skid Row and Buckcherry. Definitely not doing that. And I do not watch wrestling.
Sorry,
no,
me either.
Yeah, I don't either. No, but Jason,
but I did
a lot of people do though.
Somebody asked about Roman Reigns. I actually know who that is, but I couldn't tell you like anything about what he's done.
I think of Deuce, and I think of Scott Freshour.
Oh, that and like Kenny and Damian love D'Lo and Casey. They love wrestling.
Jason Jones loves him wrestling.
He does too. You remember that one time he was watching it and someone took a picture of him watching Monday Night.
Header on Twitter, I think, for a long time.
Yeah. Jason Jones. I love Jason.
And I am into UFC. I do like boxing as well, but probably paying more attention to UFC these days, just because there's so many local people in our area that I get to go out and cover. So I've been on that kick for a long time. Josh Emmett actually just had a fight fall through because his opponent had a very unfortunate injury, and his replacement is Bryce Thug Mitchell, who was I'm really looking forward to that, and surprised they haven't moved it up to like the main not main event, but at least to the pay-per-view card, because but it will be on ESPN, which means everyone can see it. It'll be the headlining event of the preliminaries, and that'll be a scrap. Josh Emmett's from SAC, so if anyone wants to follow along.
Okay, cool. Okay, I want to finish with the one downer. Just thoughts and prayers out to the family of the fan who passed away during the game on Monday. Just horrible tragedy. I don't know what happened there, but that's just horrible. So lots of love out to the family. That's just I don't even know what to say. What, like 32, 33 years old? So
something like that. Not good.
No, not good
Very
at all.
Sad.
Very, very sad. So and like people in the chat, it never hurts to learn CPR and stuff. They were on top of that so quick that I think the staff did a great job. There's just nothing they could do. That was hard. Okay. We don't want to end on that note.
I can change the topic real quick. I got a random topic.
Let's go.
What do you got?
You guys know that McDonald's is starting a new chain restaurant that is just drinks. It's like a Sonic Dutch Bros thing.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I saw it.
Cosmics.
What?
Yeah. There's only a
location. Are you excited? I know you're
currently. I'm curious. I like random drinks. I like I like Dutch Bros. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just random.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Super random drinks. That, and if you wanted me to give you one other random thing, I just learned from playing FIFA a decent bit recently that Dennis Rodman's daughter is a very good soccer player, professional.
Team USA.
Did not know this.
Yeah, Team USA.
Yeah. Well,
you got to watch more women's soccer.
I do.
But it's not his daughter that grew up in this area, right?
No, that's Alexis. Alexis is from Sacramento, and he used to
Okay.
walk off the court with her in his arms. But yeah, she's from Sacramento.
Okay. Got it.
Trinity Rodman is the soccer player, right?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the women's World Cup, and I watch a lot of regular everyday soccer, EPL league stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's gonna do it. I don't think I had any final thoughts.
I don't think I ever answered the fans' question, by the way. I'm not going to. I don't have any concerts booked. I wanted to go to the Sphere, but that's not working out very well. I do have Bottle Rock already paid for, so but that's not till May. So hopefully there's something between now and then that I'll hop
Did
onto.
you give a kidney for that? That's a lot.
No, man. Hey, when you're a return customer to Bottle Rock, you get rewarded for your loyalty. So yeah, absolutely. And they added a like a Spanish Latin festival the weekend after Bottle Rock now. So the likes of Maná and Farruko, and trying to think of some other ones that are popular that are on that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to ask my roommate. He listens to all of it. Shout out to Vaughn.
That's awesome. Carlos B. Fly. No, I will not be rooting for another Major League Baseball team. If the A's leave, when they leave, baseball is dead to me. Dead to me.
You can just become a Giants fan, man.
Oh no, F that. I'm done. Yeah. And I'm not gonna I hate the Giants, and I'm not gonna pay for out of market because then I'm giving money to that asshole, Rob Manfred. He can kiss my ass. Yeah. You want to get James started? Ask about baseball.
No, I think Carlos knew what he was doing there with that.
I think so too. Sweet. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Speed podcast. Jump on board with Prize Picks. We're having a great time doing Prize Picks. Big shout out to Blue Wire, who is we're on the Blue Wire network now. We'll be back in a couple of days, I think. We will have another pod. Maybe after the Suns game tomorrow. Maybe we'll do something on Saturday. Maybe you'll have to wait till early next week. Sean's shaking his head no.
Nope.
We got
I ain't gonna be there.
We got another big 49ers game this weekend, right? We've got
Seahawks.
Niners Seahawks. Yeah, I'll be there for that one.
Don't we have Eagles and Cowboys?
Yeah.
Ooh,
sure do.
Ooh la la.
Cowboys. The only time I'll ever say that.
Oh, that's ugly. Yep. So all kinds of good football to watch. Kings play Monday, and is it Monday, Tuesday, back to back?
You got Brooklyn Monday at Clippers Tuesday.
At Clippers,
and a whole lot of home games.
Yeah, and what's up with the NBA giving the Kings the Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back twice to start the season? That seems a little strange that you would, for a division rival, to stick them on the second night of a back-to-back. That seems weird. Oh well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna play the schedule, the game's in front of you. Okay, that's gonna do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you very soon. So for Box 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you soon.